Well, today I've come to shoot some infrared pictures. Now, infrared photography is quite a unique technique. It's not necessarily that popular, possibly because it's seen as a tricky technique to do, which I hope to show you how to do it here, but also because it's got limited appeal. You either like it or you don't like it, but I quite like it. I quite like the technique and the results you get. Well, I first tried infrared photography back when I was shooting film using Kodak infrared film. It was quite expensive to buy, and the exposures were all a bit guesswork, and even the focusing was a bit hit and miss. So I usually ended up just 1 or 2 keepers per film, so I never really tried it again. Well, digital has made infrared photography that much easier to do, and there's 2 ways to do it. The first is to use an infrared filter, such as this one from Hoya. The second is to use a converted camera. This filter costs £30, a converted camera costs around £400. You weigh up the balance, which is the best to go for. Now, my inspiration for trying infrared photography again was finding the right subject. It needed the right subject for success, and that's how my project started, beyond the grave and into the red. I like the idea of shooting graveyards. I love the serenity and eeriness of graveyards and thought they really matched the effect that you get in infrared film. So I went down to London and visited a couple of popular graveyards, cemeteries, including Brompton Cemetery, Kensal Green and the famous Highgate Cemetery. I got some nice results and was really pleased that it worked for the project. And I'll show you some of those pictures now. Now, whilst I was down in London, I also visited Kew Gardens, and I actually got some really nice results there too, because you've got the gardens and the parkland, and also the palm houses, and they really worked well in infrared. And so that gave me the idea to come and shoot some more gardens, more local to me, and so that's where I am here today. Well, first up then, I'm going to shoot these avenue of trees. You can see all the way along here. It's going to work really well in infrared. So I'm going to walk up and just set up in that area of sunlight up there between where there's a break in the trees. And that's going to allow me to use a nice wide angle lens, fill the frame of the trees on either side, hopefully capture a few fluffy clouds above. And I think that's going to work really well. As well as doing the open views with the clouds and the trees, I'm also looking for shots underneath the cover of the trees. Because that foliage really glows in infrared, I'm looking for shots underneath the cover of the trees, but also where you've got some nice strong branches leading in, and they will add nice contrast to that glowing foliage. So here we've got a nice strong tree, and there's one branch leading right the way out, that's stretched out like long fingers, and that's going to be perfect for an infrared shot. So as I said, I'm using the Hoya R72 infrared filter over the lens. I've got a 62mm version which fits on my zoom lens, and I've got a couple of step down rings to use it on other lenses. It absorbs around 10 stops of light, which is similar to one of those big stopper filters. So it has to be used on a tripod, so that's the only disadvantage compared to a converted camera, is that it's all done on a tripod. Now the exposures are around 5 seconds with the ISO on 400 and aperture around f5.6. On a sunny day you get those exposures around 5 seconds, which is okay. Because it's on a tripod, there's no worry about that. The only problem is that if the wind's blowing, you get blurring in the trees and the foliage. So, you know, that can work quite nice sometimes, but other times you just wait for the wind to drop, because obviously you're using those long exposures. The advantage of the Olympus here, you've got a live boost mode, which means it increases the screen brightness and the view through the viewfinder, so you can actually see through the filter, and it means you can compose and focus without having to take the filter on and off. That's the same on the EM1 and on my Pen EP5. And as for noise reduction, I leave that off because I'm doing exposures usually around, say, less than 10 seconds. There's no real noise that comes into effect on the EM1, and you don't get any on the EP5 that I also use. Oh, and I leave the white balance as it is because obviously I'm shooting raw and I can change that later. But I do set the JPEG on monotone so that the screen and the viewfinder show up as black and white. It helps show the effect of the infrared rather than it being a total red cast. So I do switch it onto black and white, that does help. Well, my final shot then is this tower in the parkland here. I thought I was going to do a close-up shot of it, but I like these group of trees that I've found as I walked up to it. So I'm actually going to use it quite small in the frame. So I'm just doing my shot here. Let's just change these settings here. So yeah, I've got these nice trees which are going to work really nice, and there's a nice path that leads into the shot, a warm path, and that's going to really show up again in the infrared. So yeah, the tower is nice and small in the frame, and they've got the dominance of the trees, but again you've got some nice clouds going across as well. So yeah, it's a good final shot on this parkland. Well, as for processing, I keep it quite simple. I process the image as normal, and then I convert that to black and white. I add some extra contrast with the curves. The highlights take a little bit of a bashing, but that's okay. And then I add a diffuse glow, which adds an extra bit of glow to the result, and adds to the ethereal look of the final picture. That's pretty much it. So that's my final shot at this location, so I'm going to head off to another set of gardens, see if I can get some more shots. Well, my final shot today is at this new location. I've got this wonderful Japanese garden, nice bridges and a temple, wonderful trees, perfect location. I've just tried the test shot though with it on overcast conditions, and it's not quite working. These trees and foliage obviously don't reflect so much infrared light, so I'm just waiting for the sun to come out, and hopefully that's going to be the shot I get. Fingers crossed. So there's two shots to do from here, one looking straight across here. There's one little bridge and the pagoda building, and then there's a shot off to the right where there's another bridge and there's a nice tree just leaning over really nicely. A little reflection in the water. Perhaps I'll do it a shot with someone on the bridge. But two shots from this one location, one spot. This could be good. So the sun's come out again, and now it's working. Well, I hope that's inspired you enough to try infrared for yourself, either with a simple filter or by using a converted camera. Perhaps try the filter first, see how you get on, and if you like the results enough, then get one of your old cameras converted to infrared. But I think the results speak for themselves.